All right, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the July budget workshop to order here at 6:10. And before we get into our typical budget workshop itinerary, we have a gentleman here today by the name of Scott Davis from the Soil and Water Conservation Department, who is generally looking to take over management of the Burbine Forest in Charleston. Currently, I just chatted with him briefly before this to get a little prologue. It's under the auspices of the Department of Public Works, the Montgomery County Department of Public Works. And Mr. Davis has indicated that Soil and Water Conservation now has the funding in place to be able to manage this property, and in no uncertain terms will be looking for our blessing to do so. Mr. Davis, would you please like to stand and open up your dialogue about why you're here? Thank you.
We have some Part C funding, what we call Part C funding. It's used for conservation practices throughout the county. Currently, we've bought a freeze dryer. County residents can use it and preserve their food. We've talked about ag plastic recycling, but we also talked about something like a park. We found Burbine, which is kind of, I don't want to say neglected because the county owns it, but a little bit neglected. So we want to kind of expand away from the ag, which is primarily what we focus on, jump into something a little different. So we have allotted, according to a couple of board members are here, $15,000 to spend up there if we get to go ahead. I spoke with Eric Mead, the commissioner. He pretty much loved it, the idea, because he didn't have to cover it anymore.
Took it off his plate, right?
I asked him today, I said, did you want to have a hand in it? And he didn't really want anything. As soon as it's off his hands, he doesn't want it. So we'd like to put about 1,000 feet of trails in this year, about 2,200 square feet of a parking lot, an entryway, because apparently there's 2 gates and it's not appealing at all. It's you got to walk around into the woods to get in. We want to put a registration kiosk to see, how many people are actually using the park, and what they're doing. And we'd like to buy a walk behind mower to maintain it. Maybe in the future expand, put a pavilion, and so on. But that's our stuff for this year. What we'd like to see done. So we're asking you guys if you're okay with us taking it away from the DPW and adopting it.
Well, I'll certainly kick off by saying anybody who's ready to invest time, money, and capital into one of our assets, I'm certainly would believe, is a positive thing, but I want to open up the floor to any of the other legislators to ask you questions or make any comments.
Is there any future plans on doing anything with like education?
Yes. Yep. So we have an environthon every year. Currently it's held in Gilboa. It's a regional for the capital area. So it's Montgomery, Rensselaer, and others 5 or 6. So that's one we'd like to see the environthon maybe end up there. We talked about maybe Cornell holding some programs. Maybe just us doing trainings there. All sorts of stuff are options there actually. So definitely expansion for education. And anybody can use it as a public park. So.
I just know the schools are always looking for field trips to go on and do things, but if they go up there and do a field trip, what kind of things would they be able to participate in?
Sure. So we actually just stocked fish a month or so ago. So we thought about holding fishing derby maybe next year. So we could have aquatics training of some sort, and forestry. We have all sorts of trees up there, so plenty of educational opportunities.
Legislator Diamond.
Sure.
Chairman Diamond.
Is there currently snowmobile trails that go through there? And if so, or is that something that will continue?
Right, so I think we're going to try to stay away from any ATV use. That's not really what it's for. There might be areas of it that are accessible to ATVs, but primarily it's a hiking trail.
Do you consider snowmobiles ATVs?
Yes, yeah. Recreational vehicles, I should say.
Like on our trail, we don't allow ATVs.
Right.
It's strictly snow.
Right, and we're only adopting half of it currently. There's 100 acres, we're adopting about 50 acres. So,
Okay, thank you.
the other half maybe.
Legislator Sweet.
Question for council, would this be under the umbrella of the liability insurance for the county as far as, just open up trails for people to be walking in there, and if it's not, if there's not someone there, it's just open to public to want to do.
Yeah, this is the first time I'm hearing about this as well, so there's definitely some research that we need to do on the insurance side and the liability.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if the park would need to be maintained as far as personnel there for different levels of coverage.
Yeah, is there a way that I could get an email with like a specific outline of what you guys are looking to do? And that would be really helpful.
So are you looking to eventually man this with someone? or
Yeah,
just
so
kind of-
it won't be a full-time, it'll be, us maintaining it once a month, once every other week, something, whatever it needs.
And as it grows, you may have
We may have to hire an intern.
these as a
Special
Legislator Patel.
Not asking, not creating a transfer of title or anything like that in the county.
No, that's not what we're looking for anyway. I mean, it's owned by the county as far as I understand it, not necessarily DPW, but they're the ones maintaining it, so we're just looking to maintain
So
it.
you're just coming in and offering.
Yes.
For us free of charge.
Yep.
Counselor, what about future projects that they wanted to do? Is this something that they should come back to us to every year to inform us of and gain our blessing from year to year on any project that they may want to take care of there?
My recommendation would be to formalize any sort of maintenance agreement in writing and define the parameters of what the scope of work would be. And then if we revisit it on a yearly basis to broaden or shorten some part of the my recommendation.
Legislator Kelly?
This is for Madam Clerk. Does the town of Minden own Gulf's Pond, or is that a county-owned?
No, the town.
I would imagine it would be a similar arrangement, because Soil and Waters helped you put in trails and docks and parking.
But the liability is on our insurance.
Right,
the town
just
insurance.
like
Yes.
with this park, it currently is on our liability anyways, but I assume the same agreement or something similar would be worked on here at the county.
Yeah, if I can see the details, then I can work on, see where we go from there.
And is it currently nature park?
Yeah,
that you
so
walk
all the
through?
trails have already been established, just they're overgrown, almost unusable.
They're back to where they're natural.
Yes, it is back to a forest.
How long ago was this dedicated back, can you remember? Is any?
I know there was an Eagle Scout that did a good portion of stuff, and it was 06, I think. I don't know when it was actually done, or I think it was closer to 2000.
The Tom Burbank part,
Yeah.
that was long.
I would say about
Yeah.
20 years ago.
I would say that.
Yeah.
So there really hasn't been a lot done.
All right, any other further questions or discussion on this? Hearing none, then Counselor, I believe to frame this up, you will be making, or they will be making contact with you. You will be drawing up some type of maintenance agreement covering all the bases, liability insurance, procedures moving forward as it pertains to any time and effort and money they want to put into the property and what they may need to do to gain our permission to do those things. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yeah.
All right, great. Mr. Davis, thank you very much for your time. All right, let's start off our budget workshop by, I'll take a different approach tonight, do this sitting down versus standing up. Rather comfortable in this chair. No, I don't mean, it's more comfortable to sit than it is to stand, let's put it that way.
That wheel does fall off. It might not be comfortable.
That's a good thing to know, Mr. Kelly, and Legislator Kelly. All right, so we'll start off by going down our dashboard, and Let's keep in mind that this dashboard report is as of June 30th, which is 6 months into our 12-month fiscal year, meaning we're 50% of the way through the year. So our tolerance levels this month, any revenue items that are less than 45% would gain a red caution symbol. Any expenditures greater than 55% of budget through June would gain red cautionary symbols here, and those are the ones we typically discuss because we look at 5% of tolerance on these issues. All right, let's starting off with sales tax. You can see we're at 37% through June 30th, largely, we know the explanation here. We're on a 2-month lag. Only 4 months through April have been recognized. And something that I noticed today, I called Sean to talk about another correction, but this is one that I missed. It indicates revenue slightly higher than same time last year at about $150,000. That was as of last month. If you do the math here, you can see that we're tracking about $471,000 greater than last year this time. So we've been attributing that in large part to the rising cost of gas. Sean, any other contributing factors that you can think of that may have us realizing revenue here at about $470,000 better pace than last year?
No, I don't have anything that stands out.
Okay, that comes to mind. All right. But certainly good news that we're tracking just under $500,000 greater than we were same time last year. So good news in that category, even though it's tracking a little slow here because of the lag, the 2-month lag. Moving down the dashboard, we have state and federal aid. State aid and federal aid, as we've said in 4 or 5 previous meetings, on a 30 to 60-day lag. Sean just did receive journal entries for April late last week for the state and the Fed. So right now, 11.2 million roughly budgeted, and we're at $2.7 million realized to date on the state aid side. And on the federal aid side, we are looking at $9.7 million budgeted through 6 months and $1.7 million realized to date. And the impact of those April entries on the state side, $282,500 that we don't see here, and on the federal side, $615,000 that we don't see here. So, which were not a part of this report because of the timing of when Sean received them. Legislator Patel.
So we're halfway through the year.
Yes.
And we're realizing 17% on the federal, and another $600,000 that you just discussed.
Correct.
There still seems to be quite a lag there.
Yeah, and I'm getting there. Just because this is something I wanted to bring up in that regard. I mean, in his commentary to me, Sean indicated that he's hoping to get May entries before the end of July. So, I mean, obviously, we know we have categories here that typically lag 30 to 60 days on reimbursement if the claims are submitted on a timely basis. Claims appear to be being submitted. I mean, to be hopeful to get May entries by the end of July means we're adding 2 months to that process as well. So I know this is a ball game that usually catches up, and you know, by the year end or into the first couple of months of the next fiscal year before we do our audit and everything else. But I think what I wanted to put on the table for the legislature was, you know, is this something that we may want to have the commissioner of DSS come in and talk with us about? Is it going to be a syndrome that we're never going to catch up by the end of the year? Legislator Sweet.
Well, I think that might be a good thing to do, but what concerns me is that you're percentage year difference from last year, you know, if we traditionally run the same, that percentage should be.
Absolutely, it
0.
should.
So, but we're at 20 and 25%.
Yeah.
So obviously, there's some change that needs to be made there.
Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, up to this point in time, you know, when we started looking at this earlier in the year, we knew that there was a personnel change late last year. Things were lagging behind. There was a little catch up there. But, you know, you know, that was probably back in March that we were talking about that. Now, here we are in July, and that pace still seems to be the case here. And, you know, we want to make sure that this is not a systemic, you know, set of circumstances where it can be corrected and have these claims processed on a much more timely basis. Legislator Pertel.
I guess that would lead to the question, do we have proper personnel in there to do? I mean, I'm really concerned that we're 2 months behind plus the 2 months back.
Absolutely.
So, in the interest of financial accountability, I think we really need to take a look and see what the staffing is there, or get a report from the director of how the staffing is and how we can influence that to be 2 months on time.
Correct. So I think, you know, a potential way to handle that, as we have with other department heads in the past, leading up to this month, is invite the commissioner to next month's meeting to talk about it a little bit, to see, you know, what can be done, if anything, and if they need our help, if they need our advice. Yes, Legislator Patel.
Rather than waiting a month to address the issue, can we ask him to prepare a plan to fix this?
Sure. I mean,
I would think that'd be more appropriate than waiting another month.
Right. I agree with that.
And I think that I'd like to hear from him how he's fixing the problem rather than, you know, next month when another month's gone by.
and we're still running 4 months behind. Yeah.
Look, we've got a problem, this is what it is. I'd rather.
Yeah, so you want to address it a little sooner than next month's budget workshop?
Sure.
Legislator Edwell.
I was going to make a suggestion that we invite him to come to our next meeting, which is next Tuesday,
Committee meeting, okay.
and have him here so we can get this on the table and know, so he knows exactly what he needs to do to get things together versus sending him information and then a month from now, we're still looking at these numbers, because I agree with Senator Sweet. I look at this and say 25% off from where we were last year, and we're almost supposed to be lagging 2 months.
Right.
That's a lot.
Agreed, agreed. That all right with you, Legislator Patel? You know, I mean,
Sense of urgency is important.
absolutely, okay, so it's the urgency, not the format, so if we get him here next week, that'll be a good time to approach him. Chairman Diamond, do you have something you'd like to have input on here?
Well, just a protocol. I can have our clerk send an email to the executive, because he needs to be here as well, to what we're looking for the next committee meeting.
Okay,
But it needs to go through him. The commissioner reports to the executive, and they're both responsible for.
Correct.
As well as us.
everybody comfortable with that approach?
Yes.
Okay, great. So that's what we'll do. Thank you all for your input on that matter. All right, intergovernmental charges are the two same items that are contributing to that. The last 5 months we've been doing this here. The election chargebacks, obviously it's not a big line item. You know, annual budget about $825,000. But certainly tracking, you know, behind last year quite a bit, and we know what's contributed to that. You know, the foreign prisoner situation that we've discussed with the sheriff and had him come in last month, and that's the other contributing factor here with that budget line item. And that's something I think we need to address as a legislature going into this budget season, which is I think we need to come up with a number. We've got to make sure that there's a number on that line item that's more realistic and attainable under the circumstances, rather than creating a situation where it may be an unrealistic number to hit based on opinion, you know, from the executive side from the executive arm of the government. Because I believe that's, you know, what happened last time was the sheriff, as he discussed, put in a certain number there, and it was increased when the budget went through without much discussion in that regard, if I'm not mistaken. So, I think that's something we got to pay a little attention to ourselves and make sure that that number is realistic based on the information that we were provided last month. Expenses on that side of things, our cautionary areas, debt service, and it's certainly based on the timings of borrowings and due dates of payments. And as we mentioned last month, when we saw a spike up in this category, most, if not all, of our principal payments due on our bonds are due in May and June. So, and we added some bonding last year over year. That's why the total is larger year over year, because there's some new bonds out there versus same time last year. So certainly that's something that should catch back up as we proceed through the rest of the year and get back into the green area maybe by the fourth quarter. Transfers out. As mentioned last month, we're running at 66% here. These are seasonal transfers as expected for the completion of work and projects, the volume of which spikes up as we move from spring into summer. And Sean, just on that note, as I was, and I don't want to skip ahead too far, but creating a relationship here between transfers out and the county road fund, because that's where a lot of this money's going. Would it be safe to say that we can presume that, in large part, transfers out category is kind of a bin of money we expect to use as a bridge until CHIPS money comes in?
Correct.
Okay. And our CHIPS line item this year was 2.4 million. So you see a figure there of 5.5 million that we budgeted, knowing that CHIPS money that is available to us this year is 2.4 million. That's about half of the line item. So so we can use that information to segue into our county road fund, and you can see that the state aid is only at 1%, and there's our $2.4 million figure there that we're expecting from the CHIPS money. And you can see from Sean's comments that we're just at, we've only realized about $6,200 of this reimbursement money to date. The next claim will be submitted in September. What's the timing on, if it's submitted then, Sean?
CHIPS money is usually about a 30-day turnaround. So
Okay.
They submit it at the beginning of September, which then at the beginning of October.
And if you had to assess, and I know this is, I'm not going to ask you for a specific dollar amount, but when that reimbursement request goes through in September, will it be for the sum total of all costs incurred from May through August, or will there be a lag on that?
It would be, like I said, there would definitely be a very large claim.
Yep.
Because it would cover all the expenses that have been incurred for CHIPS projects throughout the summer.
Okay. All right, any other questions on that line item? Transportation expenses, the same explanation as last month. Snow contracts were paid in full, and they represent half of this category's expenses. So that's something that should come back into the green as the rest of the year unfolds, based on the fact that we made that large expenditure earlier this year. Moving on to the road machinery fund, interfund revenues tracking at 44%. Just under our tolerance level here, and that's according to Sean's description here. No equipment rental income from capital projects realized, but we will be expecting about $160,000 from capital projects, but not until August, September.
September, because that's the way it works is capital projects actually, there's a rental transfer for the equipment that's used for projects and discharged to the capital projects, and there's paid to the county road machinery fund.
Okay. Any other questions on that one? Transfers in, transfers done on an as-needed basis, and that's how the money's transferred. Is there anything in contributing, any transfer that comes to mind, any one single large one there, Sean, that may have this tracking the way it is?
There's no one item, it really depends on, I would say, the spending habits in the road machinery fund. Because the transfers in is actually money received from the general fund, it's a balancing item for that
Right.
fund. So
It's part of the transfers out of the general fund, right? Okay. Everybody okay with that? All right, and moving on to the health insurance fund, intergovernmental charges, tracking at 31%. And those are billed quarterly to the other funds. Only one quarter reflected to date. The second quarter will be billed in July, so we should probably see improvement in that as of the end of July dashboard when we look at that in August.
August dashboard.
Yep. Yep. Any other questions on the dashboard report? Anything anybody else wants to talk about in any other line item other than the red ones? Legislator Patel.
I'd just like to say that I'm glad that we're really coming together, organizing the financials, and I appreciate everybody's support. I appreciate your direction. I
Thank you.
appreciate the treasurer's hard work, and glad we added the summary to it, and I think we're on the right track.
Well, it's certainly a team effort, and you know, we're happy to do it. So, all right. Although Cheryl is passing this our budget out right now, I'll be getting to that last or next anyway. Something I wanted to talk about before we break here and get into the departmental reports. Our contract with the Bonadillo Group to do our financial statement expires at the end of this year. It was a 3-year contract. It has 2 one-year automatic extensions available to us that we can take, 1 year at a time. Bonadillo, in my estimation, in my line of work, is one of the most reputable firms. I have no affiliation with them, no connection to them, other than the fact that, as a commercial lender, I look at financial statements of all our borrowers, and they're one of the most reputable accounting firms in the capital region. That said, it wasn't a sales pitch for them, just something to do with a comfort level with them. And we need to make a decision today, if at all possible, to determine whether we want to extend the contract with them for at least 1 more year at this particular point in time, knowing that we have 2 one-year extensions available to us. That said, I'm also a proponent from my past experience that in other board situations, not that this pertains at the county and municipal level as well, but it's typical to have a policy that suggests within the organization that an RFP should be put out at a specified interval. Sometimes it's worded nebulously and it says should at least look at it once every 5 or entertain the notion of putting it out to RFP once every 5 years. Some of them say it will go out to RFP once every 5 years. I think it's prudent for us for cost so that somebody doesn't get too comfortable to put it out to RFP. My question I believe here is twofold. Is one, are we in favor, and keep this in mind as well, every time something goes out to RFP, as necessary as it is, it handicaps the people involved in the department. They got to stop everything they're doing or commingle everything they're doing with, doing an RFP. So it's not something that should be done every other year for that purpose, I don't believe. And I also understand that in the past, from time to time, the reason the accounting firm may have been switched even prior to legislature in the old supervisor days were for political reasons, to check to make sure that let's go to this firm, let's go to that firm, let's make sure our numbers are and our treasurer is doing the things the right way and correctly. So that's my opinion on the table. I'm recommending we renew for at least 1 year and not to just jump the gun based on the fact that I'm looking for continuity. And also for us to consider establishing perhaps a policy, and maybe it's not even our call. Maybe it's the executive's call, maybe it's something we need to do in conjunction with the executive, but establishing some type of minimum period of time, such as 5 years, where this contract should be put out to RFP. Legislator Patel.
I would agree that Bonadeo is a fine organization. I've dealt with Bonadeo over the years with nonprofits, probably for the last 20 years, and they're one of the finest. What I've experienced or discussions that I've had over the years was that you should never get real comfortable with your auditors or your financial consultants. And it's good to go out there and ask again.
Absolutely.
Okay, and it's also good to shake it up once in a while, just for the purposes of shaking up, because people become complacent with their relationships with organizations and government entities.
Absolutely.
So, I don't have a problem at this time of extending a year, but I think this is another one of the things that this group continues to discuss. And in the future, I think that we should look at the RFP process and then also encouraging other people to take a look at it, so we and our consultants don't get complacent with our relationships.
Understood. I mean, I thought that's in essence what I framed. It was just putting a time constraints on it of a certain desire. If it's once every 4 years, if it's once every 3 years, but for all the reasons you pointed out that, I believe I mentioned as well. Does anybody else have an opinion on any of this? Chairman Diamond.
Just a couple things I would point out. I think as far as extending the year, maybe we just had an informal vote. It would have to go to a resolution for the approval anyway, but
Right.
just to give some direction, we'll have an informal vote tonight, up or down. And as far as the RFP, in any RFP that I would support, it would be coterminous with our term as far as anybody, any firm or anything that we hire at the end of our term, that's when their term is complete, and not saddle the next people with our thoughts or our values or our work. So
Okay.
if there was an RFP, if you want to go along with Legislator Patel's thing, I would see, I don't know, would the firm take it for another year? Possibly. My only suggestion would be that it be 3 years, coterminous.
With each legislative session. Thank you. Yep, no, thank you. Just 1 second, Legislator Kelly. I mean, in that regard, knowing what we have in front of us now, though, we have an ability, perhaps, to extend this 2 more years, which would get us 2/3 through our session as legislators.
Well,
17 and 18.
Yes, we complete our term.
I thought we had 2 one-year extensions left.
So they're all set this year. So next year will be the second, then the first extension.
With 18, okay, correct, okay. I was thinking back a year. Okay. Legislator Kelly.
Well, I understand what Chairman Diamond's saying is we don't want to straddle the next legislature. That being said, I do see some pros to having it be like the first year of their term. That way, there is something in place when they start,
Sure.
because
That's a good point, too.
if it
Yeah,
ends at
yeah.
our term,
Right.
there's nothing here.
And you may have many new faces here who are
Right.
unfamiliar and give them the luxury of at least having it in place for that first year.
Yeah, like you
Yeah.
don't want to have your insurance drop out, and then it takes a few months, for the RFP process, so you're going first quarter into the year and you have no insurance on it.
Right,
So,
okay. Any other, Legislator Patel?
I have to agree with Legislator Kelly. I think that moving it into being offset, and I understand the chair's 3-year relationship, but I think having it offset offers a head start for, say it's a whole new group of people, not a new legislature, you start out with something in place and then you can identify your comfort level with it as it goes on.
All right.
So I don't know how you would, I still don't think that we need to react on it today.
Well, I think we have to act on at least a one-year extension, I would think, because that was presented to me, to present to you, to all of you, so that it can, we know what's going to happen in that regard, how it's going to unfold.
I'd like to see us, and it's only my thought, but I'd like to see us extended that 1 year as we discuss the future.
Okay. Legislator Sweet.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's take an informal vote tonight, see whether it goes up or down to extend the year.
Okay.
We can get a resolution. And then also, let's find out whose responsibility the RFP is, if it's ours or if the executive branch.
This one is ours.
Yeah, it's ours.
So it's ours. So then we can draw something up within this year saying that, we want to extend it to 1 year into the next
Yeah.
legislative.
2 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Or do we want to do
Or
a
3 years.
Yeah, well, I think what's available to us under the contract are 2 one-year extensions, correct? Sean?
Yes.
So that wouldn't get us into the first term of the next legislature.
So, but it gives us time to discuss the format of it.
Right.
Yeah, but if we do, so, all right.
So vote
The other possibility, of course, if we do in fact have 2 one-year extensions, is that we could extend for 1 year and then during that year, issue an RFP for the next year.
I like that.
And then you have a comparison, you have a benchmark for what you could continue doing versus the proposals that other people put in. That will make people sharpen their pencils.
And it needs to be done. That's part of the whole purpose behind it. Complacency, pricing, absolutely. All right, so I'll just try to frame this up. We'll take an informal vote here, but I don't want to misspeak. Are we in favor of doing 1 or 2, exercising 1 of the 1 year extensions or 2 of the 1 year extensions?
Just 1 year with the 1 year.
1. Everybody's 1. Okay. Well, then that's what we'll look to put into the form of a resolution, and then we'll continue to discuss it going forward. All right, great.
Legislator, do we want a resolution for next week's committee, or do you want
Sure.
to wait till August?
Let's get it done. Why not? Yep. All right, thank you, everyone. Appreciate your input on that, very valuable. All right, our monthly departmental reports. I'm finding this exercise, the reality of this exercise is this. I don't know how much all of you look at this report other than when it's handed out to you tonight at this meeting. You know, I would, and maybe you can step up and tell me, oh, I'm studying this, you know, at X many intervals. But the reality of it is this, is we've been doing, our first one was received in May as of the end of April. The next one was received in June, representing the end of May. This one received in July, representing the end of June. When we instituted it, we talked about the concept of revisiting this after 3 months of reporting to see if we wanted to tweak or adjust the frequency from month end to bi-monthly to quarterly, based on information, which is what it was is this kind of becoming an exercise, I don't want to say in futility, but a redundant exercise where people are commenting on things fairly similarly from month to month, and it's on their plates every month, and is there real value in it being done every month or at some other specified interval? I'm finding, you know, as the point person on this, that, you know, last month I received this report in anticipation of this meeting, the day of the meeting, okay? I'm working during the day at my own job. You know, I want to come in here prepared to be able to, at the very least, give you guys, as we go through department by department, a quick synoptic review. This one didn't change from this month, you know, this type of thing. Maybe to save you the problem of doing it yourself, because I don't know who's brought last month's with them to compare this one to at this table right here as we sit. But that's the exercise I try to perform there. So this month, I got a report, a partial report I met with Sean last, this is not Sean's, under Sean's auspices, but I met with him last Wednesday to talk about the dashboard, like I do in anticipation of our meeting. And at that time, I was provided by the executive a partial report. In fact, it had 8 departments had not reported to him as of that particular point in time. And although appreciative that I was in receipt of that information, at that particular point in time, I really want to receive this as a done thing, and a completed project, and so that, and in enough time that I can interpret it a little bit myself and help facilitate our review of it at these meetings. And I'm finding, and I'm just putting this out on the table, that the regimen of providing this, of the department heads providing this to the executive so that he can provide it to me as budget chairman in ample advance of this meeting is not unfolding well. It's not unfolding ideally. I don't want to say not well, not as ideally as I would like it. And so I wanted to put that out on the table, as we look at this, and ask you how much value you're finding in it. Are you finding value in it beyond the constraints of this budget workshop meeting? I'm trying to get it down, quite frankly, I wanted it that regimented so that it would become apparent to us if we had it and we could take this month's and compare it to last month's, things weren't changing much, and it could help us make a judgment that maybe we only need this once a quarter, bi-monthly, that type of thing, instead of once a month. And I don't even know if the frequency, if it would be done less frequently, if I would get it on a more timely basis or not, I don't know. But before we get into it, I wanted to speak my mind to all of you about how this is unfolding. It's a valuable report, certainly valuable to the executive, valuable to us because we instituted it from the premise that we didn't want to be cold-cocked. We didn't want to be blindsided by any surprises. It certainly serves that purpose. But in and of itself, I did not get this until I walked in here tonight because of some of the reasons I described. And it's not a complaint, it's not a criticism, it's how it's happening. And I wanted you to all be aware of that. And I'll get to you, Legislator Kelly. I just saw Legislator Patel's hand there earlier. Yes?
It seems to me, first of all, I find this to be very valuable.
It's a valuable tool.
I don't find it to be invasive into our staff. I think that
Correct.
The 3 or 4 questions that are there should not take a day to prepare. I think that we're getting honest answers, we're getting some answers that we rely on, that are bringing things up that we don't have to go mining for. I think it's a mechanics kind of issue right now, of getting it through the proper channels in the proper time. And I think that's to be expected in any process that we start in a $110 million organization. Myself, I would prefer to see it once every month. And even though I just got it on my desk when I came in here, came in here 5 minutes earlier, I reviewed it, it was clear, it was concise for what I was asking for. And I think it adds a monthly accountability to the department heads.
Absolutely, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I think that, for example,
I will go through the report with you when we're done talking about this general concept. Just
I guess that looking I really think it's a valuable thing, and I think that I would like to see us work through it. I would like to see our staff work through it, the department heads work through it. and they can appreciate, because then they can come back and say, look, this is no surprise to you legislators.
Absolutely. It's the process that I'm frustrated with. I expected it, it was a new thing, April, but we're 3 months into this thing now, and it's not being provided, I know the bottom line is it being provided? Is that all that really matters? Yes, but I guess one of the ideas of it, behind it, was for it to be provided in enough advance for us to ingest it and digest it at this meeting. And I don't know that that's what's happening, but all the value you speak of, Legislator Patel, I agree with 100%.
I mean, here we are at 10 for the 11th. What date is it?
The 11th.
It's 11 days into, 11 days into the new month. I think we provided ample time.
Well, I think there should be too. And quite frankly, because of the timing of last month's, I took the time to reach out to remind about the timeliness of it. And therein was the conscientiousness of the executive in providing me what he provided as of last Wednesday. But, if it was a course in college, it would have gotten an INC, an incomplete. And Legislator Edwell, did you want?
I agree 100% with what Mr. Solis talked about, and with all of this, I do think we should get on the monthly. If we go to every 2 months, I think some of the departments are going to go, we're going to see further them. I think what we need to do is stress to Matt that this is important, we want this information, and he can stress to the department chairs that this is not going to go away, or department heads, it's not going to go away. This is going to be something that they're going to be required to do, and they need to get it done and turned in. And I think once they realize that this isn't, if they just stop doing it, it's just going to go away. It's not. I mean, I looked at what we have here with the dashboard. All this stuff is great information. We're getting good information. We know the direction we're going. And since it hasn't been done in the past, now they need to know that this is the way it's going to be. And for a department head to sit down and answer these questions, it takes
That's what
5 minutes.
That's what confounds me the most, about the whole thing. It's become it's already becoming rote, but being done by rote, and I like that fact, but that's what I was trying to suggest. Please have the administrative assistant send out the reminder on the 25th of the month. Your departmental reports are due, by December, or by the 30th of the month or whatever, so that, they can compile it and get it to us. Certainly, given the nature of the information that's being provided here, there's not much more that's going to happen between the 25th of the month and the 30th of the month that they can't synopsize in this thing and make sure it's received by us, in a timely.
At this point, he should not have to do reminders. At this point, the department
Nor
heads-
should we have to do them on him.
No,
Yeah.
this should be done, it should be over and done with, and there should be no excuses whatsoever. But to have 8 departments not have it turned in,
As of the 5th of July,
it's...
it was. So, excuse me, Chairman Diamond.
Is there a specific date we want it by, like the Tuesday before our meeting?
At the very least, all I was looking for was, I'm just looking for it myself as chairman, maybe the Thursday or Friday before the budget workshop. So, I have a little time to look at it and compare it to the last month, so that I can go department to department and say, okay, no change here, just to facilitate the flow of it at our meeting, for the rest of you. So, Legislator Kelly?
It says right on the top on this too, so we need to just express our concerns to Matt, and he needs to, send it down the chain. I mean, it clearly states it was due before the 4th. You would have had it on the 5th, which it's...
Right. Now, I mean, they in some way, they reformat it. This is what I kind of received, which was an unabridged version of this on the 5th. We got to give them a couple days to get it in the fashion that we're all familiar with, we've grown familiar with, so it's a repetitive exercise.
No, I understand that, but this one, The one that.
No, you're right, I mean, yeah, no,
There's a deadline.
I'm just wondering whether, you know, as we're talking about a date, if that's too late in the game, you know, maybe by the end of the previous month, you know.
Yeah, well, I think this one changes because it probably fell on a weekend, Friday.
The 30th was a Friday.
So-
Yeah.
But the date, I'm just saying this one was due at a specific time. Clearly
It was.
It was. But I do agree, I'd like to see these monthly.
Okay,
Give us
that's
insight.
a beautiful thing. Legislator Sweet.
I agree. I think this is a very good tool that we have. If we back it down, it's going to become less productive for us, you know, because we're not going to be able to compare. And it does put the onus back on the department head to tell us when there's an issue. If we go quarterly, I couldn't tell you because it wasn't due until, you know, 2 months from now. So
Good point.
I think we need to continue.
Okay. Chairman Dunn.
So I'd be happy, we could have the clerk send an email to the executive to share with the department heads that these reports are required by the date requested. If not, I'd be happy to provide some sanctions.
Okay.
Not happy, but
Can we agree on a date, you know, as a legislature that we'd like to recommend to the executive arm of the government? The last day of the month?
So you want it from the last day of the previous month?
Submit it to the executive the last day of the month.
Okay.
Yeah,
End of business day.
yeah, last business day of the month. Okay.
I believe the way that he had it set up was that it was by the 1st, and I don't know why this one's at July 3rd. Maybe because the first was
I think the first Saturday.
on
Yeah, the first was
Saturday. So they.
First was a Saturday, so they made it the third of the
They
month.
went out.
Right. Okay. All right, so reframing this, we will look to pass word on to the executive arm of the government that we would like the departments to submit this by the last business day of the month, and we would, you know, like to receive it, you know, by the perhaps the Thursday or Friday before the budget workshop meeting. At least I would like to receive it by then. Let's put it that way. Okay, great. Thank you.
Here's a good example on this, is the weights and measurements. I mean, we never hear from him about his budget, you know, and all of a sudden now we get a nice, you know, an article here, you know, he's got problems and what's going on with his budget.
Yeah.
And it's not something that's just going to, you know, at least we see it,
No,
we know what's going on.
and that's a good thing, you know. So, all right, let's go through the report itself. And I have June's, I have the one we looked at last month. First of all, we have 24 departments reporting this month. We had 22 in June and 20 in May. So not everybody was on the party wagon in May. We got a couple more in June, and a couple dropped off. And this month we have 24. I think that's pretty much close to the maximum we would be looking at. I mean, as far as auditing is concerned, it's the same comments as last month. No, no, no. Board of Elections, new info about the potential revenue reduction here. Now, certainly, it's indicating, you know, it's not a lot of money, but he has a revenue line item that was budgeted at $20,000, might be closer to $3,000. Yet indicates it will not have an impact on the fund balance. So perhaps there will be, and last month, there was no as for the three answers, okay? Central purchasing, the same, no. County attorney, the same, no. County clerk, the county clerk's last month was indicating about the position that was on the table and has made comments here as it pertains to you know, in the wake of as you know, the approval of that position, the only new expense is the new position. So there's no surprises there, although there's a little bit new information. County treasurer was in last month's report and this month as well, where it was indicated that we would be getting some money from MOSA as part of the closeout of that, but certainly nothing new to report this month. Data processing, It's pretty much the same information, no red flags, the same itemization, 1,091, 34, 20, you see the items there, with no impact on the fund balance.
Sure.
Yes?
As it pertains to that, I mean, do we feel that all that information is needed?
Probably not. I mean,
Maybe
you know.
we should as courtesy say to him, look, this is what we're looking for, and you're doing more than this.
Well, I mean, my estimation, that's a message that the executive should pass on to him.
Okay.
You know, I mean, he's really the clearing, Chairman Diamond.
Well, the thing that it reflects to me is there a way that, and probably not our responsibility, maybe the executives to say, is there a way to combine any of these internet services, or is there a cheaper way to do this? I mean, to me, it's just a 530 there, 1,400 there, 2,500, you know, is there a better way to do this? That's what that tells me.
That's what you're,
That's what I get.
yeah, get out of that one, yep. Legislator Kelly.
I know in past years, data processing has been one that he comes and he has to update systems and, you know, get everyone using similar or the same computer modules and things like that, or printers. And I think what I gather from this is he's telling you things that are happening, so that he's building his case so that when he comes to us at budget season.
See, I've been telling you all along. Yeah. Very good observation. And we will soon know that, right? Thank you. All right, the DA, the same as last month. Economic development, same as last month. You know, the mileage line item was mentioned. Emergency management, same, no red flags. History and archives, the same. And of course, you would expect some of these departments to not change from month to month because there's not as much going on in their worlds as others. Mental health, a re-entry. Remember last month we thought maybe it was going to be combined with public health. No, it was there the first time. It wasn't there last month. Now it's back, but certainly nothing alarming there. Personnel, some interesting information here. Certainly our personnel officer is and gratefully so, a detail-oriented person. And there are some new details in here. Now, I mean, when all is said and done, you know, the bottom line is some good information there, but the end game we're looking for in all of this, yes, we like the explanations of what's going on. Is it going to, you know, the reason this was created, is there any impact on the fund balance? No. You know, everything she's talking about there. So, but you can see there's some new information there. You know, the stop loss is kicked in, 2 claims have exceeded a certain dollar threshold, things of that nature. So, very useful information there. Probation, nothing new, same as last month. Public defender, same as last month. Public health, nothing new. Last month, public health indicated they had some things that were going to happen, but they should all be funded by state grants. So nothing new there. Public Works, some changes and some repeat. Certainly, there's no red flags that he's mentioned here. You know, paving the bike path, I believe, from was not mentioned last month. And emergency repair work at the jail, we certainly, had a presentation on that, so we're all aware of that, but he wisely included it in this month's report. Any impact on the fund balance, you know, the boiler in the annex building, the annex roof, you know, we talked about all those at last month's meeting. Broadway office building speed drive motor, that was in last month as well. He had a number on it last month, 13,846, 14,000 here. So largely the same information. Real property tax, same information. Sealers of weights and measures. Okay. He did indicate last month that he may need a new truck. It has over 100,000 miles on it. We did talk about that last month. It's some familiar information there. And other than that, you know, he's indicating, or he or she, the person is indicating, you know, maybe need some repairs, but certainly not assigning even $1 of value to it. The sewer, new information that I suppose has a potential to affect fund balance in that, and I'll defer to my up-county legislators here. McDonald Engineering coming in to inspect the Fort Plain and Palatine Bridge pump stations, and is indicating if they have any findings, you know, there may be a need there, but at least he's given us fair warning.
Just to clarify, that'll be coming from the sewer,
Sewer fund
balance. not
Okay,
ours.
so, all right, good to know. Thank you, Chairman. All right, so nothing alarming there, knowing that that's already been accounted for. The sheriff, nothing really changed from last month. What's that, Legislator Kelly?
His issue, the jail issue, sure.
You mean the,
Saying that salary line items were changed from,
last month, jail personnel lines were lowered without my approval by someone. Same information, that was under any red flags. Same information as last month's report still showed the salary changes I reported before in the monthly budget report I received.
well, when he was here, he talked about this and we said that we were going to look into it.
I've had some conversations with him, and we're working on them, because I'm not seeing the big differences that he's seeing, so we're still working back and forth on them.
Okay. Thank you, Legislator Kelly. Social services, some new info, but no impact on fund balance. Discusses one potential transfer within existing accounts. Public, oh, I already, sorry. And stop DWI. Yes, I'm sorry, Legislator Kelly. No, go right ahead.
Did the contract for the Amsterdam DSS office go up or something? Why wasn't it?
Not.
Why do we have to transfer money? I mean, it's a
Fixed costs that we were probably well aware of going into last year's budget, correct?
Yeah.
Good question.
We could ask that when he hears. We could ask that when he shows.
Legislator Tom.
You know, this is a great document, we all agree on it. Now I think what we're missing is a way that when we have a question, that we ask judiciously to get the answers. So, format.
We could send the questions in an email tomorrow and ask for the responses to have them shared with them.
But I think what you're saying is it should go through the county executive.
Yeah.
And I would agree with that. But how does this body get those questions to the county executive?
Via email through the clerk.
All right, so before we leave this exercise, we will agree on the questions we want asked of which department heads.
Yep.
Thank you.
Stop DWI, wasn't on last month's report, but nothing there, and Youth Bureau the same. All right, so in review, what would we, well, we know one question we want to ask. Social services, how come they may need a transfer to cover rent expense that should have been a fixed cost going into last year's budget?
Is
it?
Yeah.
Michelle answered the other questions.
Okay. Absolutely.
Personnel, without getting into the minutia, how does none of this affect fund balance? I mean, they're saying that some costs are gonna go up, 5.83%.
Well, go ahead, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to-
We're, already 2 claims that are at the stopgap.
Well, the one is an impact on, perhaps on the employees, yes,
Yeah,
the RX one,
yes.
but the last one,
Rate's set for the year.
Right, but where's it self-insured, so if somebody ends up terminally ill, God forbid, our costs go way up, and we already have 2 people at the stopgap, what is the, I know it's a huge number, it's like, yeah, so, and I know we've talked in passing, and she's discussed it a little bit, maybe last year, but, that it's a big moving target. I mean, last year we had to transfer some money to cover the insurance costs near the end of the year.
well, then what's,
And looking at where we are, on our dashboard,
mhm,
we're already 9% above
Mhm.
last year to date.
mhm.
So if we were in trouble last year, now we're about 10% up higher.
Correct.
So that would be a question that we would send to personnel.
Let's, all right, let's ask that question. Given the information provided, please offer us an explanation as to why, in your opinion, this won't have any impact on the fund balance.
The last section,
Well,
or the stop.
yeah,
Well, the whole department, and when you're looking at the insurance fund, the insurance, the insurance line item, or that line item is 9% higher than it was last year. So,
I mean, but we can ask her the acuity of that question. Well, no, we can't, 'cause she's not gonna be here. I mean, but, legislative talk.
And along the lines of personnel, I mean, if we could get some explanation on Romer, Wallace, what services were beyond the scope of our retainer. I appreciate that.
Do you have enough, Cheryl? Or
Yeah, what services?
Yeah, it says that the increase is due to professional services for services beyond the scope of our retainer with them. I'd just like to know what the increase is.
That was under the, any anticipated transfers or expenses.
Thank you.
All right. Are we good on the questions we want to ask of the specific department heads? Are we good?
It's just those 2, DSS and personnel.
Yes, it appears to be. Thank you. All right. Thank you.